Today's tutorial is for the Cara pouch. This is from the designer Lorelei Jayne. I have sewn many patterns from this designer. I love the way her patterns look, the way they come together quickly and easily, very common sense patterns. You will be seeing me make lots of different patterns of hers on my channel. As a matter of fact, one of her patterns will be for my Frugal Fridays in the month of January also. Today for this tutorial, I'm using prints from Jayne's Fabrics. These are a cotton canvas. I do have everything interfaced with an SF101, which is a medium weight interfacing. I'm using a little bit of clear vinyl, not for sure where I got that clear vinyl from. It was just in my sewing room. I'm using a zipper pull from Jayne's Fabrics, and I'm using zipper tape from Sew Majestic. Of course, I have a tag from Heartwood and Hide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the pieces. We will just talk about them one by one as we sew everything up. First thing we'll be doing is we'll be sewing zipper tabs onto our zipper. I have the zipper tape cut to the measurements given in the pattern, and I went ahead and put on the pull for this. And so now what I'm going to do is take one zipper tab. You will have two. I'm going to place it right sides together with the zipper tape. I'm going to add a clip or two. And then I'm just going to sew along that short edge. Then I will flip it back and top stitch. I will do that for both sides with both zipper tabs. The next thing I'll do is I'll pull out this clear vinyl slip pocket, and I'm going to add a layer of binding onto the top of it. I did make my binding. I just cut a piece of my exterior fabric according to the pattern measurements, and then I did a 4-way fold, making sure that no raw edges were exposed. You also could use pre-made binding here, or if you're someone who prefers to use waterproof canvas for binding, you could do that as well. You would just see the raw edge here. This slip pocket could be made in a variety of different ways. I'm using a clear vinyl. You could use a printed clear vinyl, or you could use a jelly vinyl. You could also slip a woven tag in here just as a cute decoration. I'm actually going to sew my cork tag onto the front of this as an extra decoration. These are the steps I'm going to do first, so you're going to see me taking care of all these things to get this pattern started. Now that we have the zipper tabs onto the zipper and the binding and tag sewn onto the slip pocket, let's go ahead and prep the slip pocket a little bit more. We're going to be pulling out our bottom pieces. We should have two, an exterior and a lining. So I'm going to pull out my exterior piece first, and then I'll just set my lining back to the side. I'm just going to match up the sides and the bottom. The top will not match up. I'll add a few clips just to keep everything staying steady while I'm sewing it. And then I'm just going to baste 1/8 of an inch around the sides and the bottom, leaving that top unsewn. Here is how this looks. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm just going to jump to the first step in the pattern, which was the card pocket. I typically do things out of order, just sew whatever is closest to me sometimes, or whatever makes the most sense. So this is the card pocket piece. You have one of these. I'm using a lining print for mine, and I'm going to match up these short sides. So I'll just fold it right sides together so the right sides are touching. And then what I'm going to do is add a few clips here to hold this in place. And then I'm going to start sewing here at the bottom, back stitch, come up, pivot, break my stitches. You'll want to back stitch here too. Leave an opening for us to turn this pocket right sides out. Come back here, back stitch, pivot, go down, finish sewing this pocket. So we want to leave the opening but sew on the sides and a little bit on the top. Before I turn this right sides out, I'm just going to take a little bit of bulk around the corners because that is the spots where we will see the most bulk gathering. Now what I'll do is I'll simply turn this right sides out through my opening. I will make sure I take the time to poke out those corners, and if you want, you can take it over to the iron and give it a good press. I have the corners poked out, and then I have that raw edge pushed in here to the top, or you could consider it the bottom, whichever. I prefer to keep this at the top most of the time, so I can go ahead and top stitch now and close it up, and that way whenever I add it to the lining piece, I don't have to worry about that shifting any when I'm sewing around. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. So now that I like the way it looks, I'm going to just top stitch 1/8 of an inch away across the part that's going to be the top for me, and that will close up that opening that I used to turn it right sides out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my lining back piece. This pocket is going to be centered onto here, and the pattern tells you how far down from the top you're going to place it. If you wanted to use the exterior print, which is what the pattern suggests, you could do that here for contrast. I just use the same print, but just as a note, that is an option. Once you have the pocket placed according to the pattern directions, go ahead and slide it over to your sewing machine, and then you're going to sew down both the sides and across the bottom to attach it to this lining back piece. This slip pocket will be the perfect place to store cards, credit cards, driver's license, business cards, or cash and coins. Just a really quick, easy way to drop something in there and keep it secure. So I have this interior pocket done, I have my zipper done, I have this front slip pocket completed. So let's go ahead and add the zipper to this part right here. This is where the zipper is going to go. This is going to be the main opening on this pouch. This pouch is a little different, as in the zipper is here on the front instead of at the top of the pouch. Really cute way to do it. So since this is my exterior, I want my zipper pull closing to the left. So I want it to look like this at the end. So I'm going to flip it down so that I can make sure I have it closing properly and in the end. My zipper tabs are a little longer than they needed to be, just because I had grabbed a piece of scrap fabric from the exterior and just cut it in half. If yours is cut exactly to the pattern measurements, you won't have to center this zipper on there. It'll fit pretty perfectly. I'm adding some clips here at the top, and I'm going to base this in place first. If you're comfortable, you could go ahead and add the lining to this slip pocket piece. It is this piece right here, and is the bottom piece, the lining print. You could go ahead and place it right sides together and sew all at once with the full seam allowance. But I'm instead going to do a basting stitch here, just 1/8 of an inch, and then I will come back and add that bottom piece. Go ahead and pull out that bottom piece, which is in your lining print, place it right sides together, match up that top straight edge, and now you're just going to sew across with the full seam allowance given the pattern. I'm going to separate these two pieces, give a little tug so that everything is pulled nicely, and now I want to top stitch. I want to top stitch on that exterior bottom piece right under the zipper, the edge we just sewed, so about 1/8 of an inch. This will help hold everything securely, and it'll just give it a little more of a professional look. At this point, we have these pieces left. I want to make a mention now that if you want to add the D-ring, you'll need to follow the steps in the pattern to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to try to add a grommet to mine. Hopefully my grommets are not too big for this pattern, so we will see when we get there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this lining back piece, the one that I added the slip pocket onto, and I'm going to have it right sides up, and I'm going to lay this entire pocket piece on it right sides up. Everything should match it pretty nicely. If it's off a little, that's okay. You can just trim at the end, but everything should match pretty close. So for me, on this piece, I'm using a number 5 zipper tape. In the pattern, it looks as if she's using a number 3. So because of that, this slip pocket for me is a little bit bigger because my zipper is wider. So I have just a little bit of a shortage there on the back. No big deal at all. It's going to be caught in the seam allowance, so I'm not worried. So what I'm going to do at this point, after I match everything up, is I'm just going to baste all around this piece completely to have these pieces attached. And your inside there looks really cute. It's adorable. Love it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this top piece and I'm going to have it oriented the way I want it to go, especially if you're a print structure. You need to be careful here. Once you have it that way, go ahead and flip it down, and this time you will sew across the top only with the full seam allowance given in the pattern. Now that I have that sewn together, I'm simply going to flip up that top piece and top stitch underneath it about 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to make sure I'm kind of tugging to make sure it's staying really nice and secure, and that I get an even top stitch all along here. So cute. I love it. Okay, I'm going to move my zipper a little bit to the middle, mainly because I don't want my needle to hit my hardware. I have this last back piece, and now what I'm going to do is I want to place it right sides down so it's right sides together with everything else. Now that I have this clipped together, we are going to sew all around. I'm going to leave my opening here at the top, and this is how I'm going to turn it. I'm going to start sewing right here, back stitch a few stitches, go over to the side, pivot, go all the way down, back up, pivot again, and come in a little bit on the top and back stitch here as well. Then I will be able to turn this right sides out, press, and top stitch. I'm definitely going to trim the extra bulk there in those corners. If you wanted to do a little bit of trimming around everywhere else, you can. Definitely, if you have some overhang, you can do that. I'm not too worried about much of the trimming. I'm just going to get some of the overhang that I had extra off. Once you have it ready, just start slowly turning it right sides out. Here's how it looks when I turn it right sides out. It definitely needs some shaping. So I'm going to pull out those big clips that I have that I use in all my videos if you've watched them before. And I'm going to start rolling these seams and pressing everything flat. These clips are really strong, so they do a great job of compressing, but they also have the rubber at the end, or silicone maybe, I guess is probably a better word for it, so that it doesn't damage the materials or leave really strong indentions. Everything's looking great. So I'm going to leave those clips on while I'm doing the rest of these steps. What I want to do is I want to kind of pull along the top to get this to lay evenly. So since the top has the opening, it's really important to take the time to go slow to make sure everything's even. If you have the opening in the lining, it's not too big of a deal because you don't see it or nobody pays attention, but this opening is right here, first thing you see. I'm looking to make sure everything's even. I see this part's a little bit up higher than the other, so let me see if I can bring the rest of my material up a little bit more as well so that it's even. So some tricks you can do if you want to make sure this is perfect is you can go ahead and iron this flat. You could use some school glue or a glue stick, double-sided tape, whatever your preference is, to go ahead and close up that opening temporarily before you take it over the machine. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to go very slow to make sure that I'm not having things shift, and that I'm really being careful to get a straight line here, since this is a feature point we will be noticing. My top stitching looks really good. So I'm done with sewing the bag. You could stop here if you wanted to. If you had a D-ring, you definitely would, but I'm going to attempt to put a grommet here. So let me go ahead and get out my supplies for that. So I found all the supplies that I'll need to install the grommet. I definitely think my grommets are a good size for this pouch. So what I have is I have the cutting base, so that is going to go on the bottom of my press, and then I have the actual device that's going to cut the circle that'll go on the top of my press, and it just grooves in. The grommets themselves are not expensive. It's the die kits that you need that are the bigger cost. So what I do first, and I'm not going to be able to show all this on camera, I've tried it before many times, I just need a different setup. So what I do first is I kind of check where it'll go when it closes to where it'll cut. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my press to punch a hole in the area where I want the grommet to go. I have my hole cut. Now I'm going to take out those two dies and add in the actual dies that set the grommet. This one goes at the bottom, and this one goes at the top. I take the bigger piece, which is kind of my bottom piece that looks like a hat, and I just set it there on the die. It fits in nicely. Then I just take the pouch and I just slide it on there. Everything fits in and seats really well. Then you take this little top piece, the flatter piece, and you just sit it on top, and it just kind of, it doesn't lock in or anything, so you kind of have to hold it when you're doing it. And then all I have to do is press down and apply the pressure, and that will flatten that top piece around it. So it's really just bending the metal, just folding it down. Now I have that grommet installed, I'm going to use a gate ring to just clip around here. And then I'm going to use one of these. This is actually a hair tie from Amazon. I buy them in bulk occasionally for my craft shows. Kids love to use them as carrying straps for their pouch. Let's take off these clips now. Look at how adorable this pouch is. It is so cute. This will be what you can wear to carry it if you want, or you could put a traditional wristlet strap in here. Super cute. Let's go over the features of this little pouch. We have a slip pocket here. We open it up. This is our main opening here. So when we look inside, you can see there's plenty of room for storing things. We have a little pocket right here for our credit cards and driver's license. Super cute, super fun. This is a great scrap buster project. If you're wanting to use up some scraps and you don't have a lot of pieces, this is a great way to use them. Clear vinyl, jelly vinyl. You could put a tag on the back. I probably should have done that too. You definitely have plenty of options to fancy this up. This is the Cara pouch. It is from the designer Lorelei Jayne. I will be doing more of her patterns on my channel. They're super cute and fun. I will have the link for this pattern in my description, as well as the link for the fabrics. My fabrics are from Jayne's Fabrics. I do have my rep code, which is Beth10. If you use that code, you can save 10% on your total, but then I also get 10% back in credit that I can use to buy more fabric on her website. If you have any questions about this pattern or any of my supplies I used, please let me know. I thank you for watching another tutorial of mine. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I hope you have an amazing day.